I was sitting in my office the other day, quiet morning, sunlight coming through the blinds, a stack of old papers on one side and a pile of new ones on the other. And I had one of those moments where you stop and say, well, hell, look at that. I turned 94 this year, 94. I still don't quite believe it. I don't feel 94. I don't think 94. But the numbers don't lie. And if they do, well, I've spent my whole life reading numbers, so I should know better than to argue with them. I picked up an old photograph, me at 50, full of fire, full of ambition, full of the belief that I had figured life out. At the time, I thought I was the smartest man in every room I walked into. Thought I understood money markets, business, people, everything. But when you get older, when you cross into your 70s, then 80s, then if you're lucky, your 90s, you start realizing something that younger people rarely understand. You don't stop learning just because you get older. You don't stop making mistakes. The world doesn't stop teaching you. And if you're humble enough to listen, life keeps revealing new truths. Some helpful, some painful, all of them necessary. That's what I want to talk to you about today. Not from a textbook, not from some theoretical financial model, not from an MBA lecture hall. No, I want to talk to you from living, from decades of wins, failures, miscalculations, surprises, and lessons I wish someone had told me when I was in my 50s and 60s. See, most people in that age range think they're at the end of something. They think life is winding down. They think the best is past, but that's not true. Not even close. These years, your 50s, your 60s, can be some of the richest, most important, most meaningful years of your life, but only if you approach them correctly. And let's be honest, most people don't. Most people spend their 50s and 60s either panicking that time is running out or pretending they have forever, and both of those mindsets ruin them. At 94, I want to tell you what actually matters, what's worth your effort, what's worth protecting, and what you absolutely should let go of. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let me talk to you like someone who's lived almost a century, someone who built wealth from scratch, someone who's made a mountain of mistakes and still managed to climb out on the other side. Let me tell you what I wish I had known at 50. When the fire was strong, the blinds were open wide, and the clock was ticking a lot faster than I understood. Looking back at my 50s, when I think back to my 50s, the late 1990s, early 2000s, I remember chaos. The markets were wild, hedge fund deals were everywhere, and I was relentlessly focused on Appaloosa, on building something durable, something powerful. I was reading research until midnight, scanning balance sheets on airplanes, negotiating deals between cups of burnt coffee in conference rooms that all smelled the same. And I loved it. I still love the work. I still get up every day itching to solve a new puzzle. But when I look back with clear eyes, I also see the cost. I miss things. Time with my kids, ordinary dinners, random conversations, moments where I could have been present but wasn't. At the time, I told myself I was building a better future for them. I told myself the work mattered. And sure, some of it did, but some of it didn't, not in the way I thought. One day, my kid said to me, not angry, not resentful, just honest, "Dad, I wish you were around more." And I felt that deeply, because everything I was chasing, everything I thought was urgent, all of it would have waited. But the moments with them, those moments evaporated. Once they're gone forever. So here's the first thing I want you to understand. If you're in your 50s or 60s, don't get so busy building your life that you forget to live it. You won't remember the extra hours you worked. You won't remember the extra report you read at midnight. You won't remember the urgent emails you fired off before bed. But you will remember the time spent with the people you love, the small moments, the simple conversations, the vacations, the dinners, the laughter. That's the stuff that sticks to your soul. And when you're my age, you'll wish you had more of it. The math still works, even in your 50s and 60s. People ask me all the time, "David, am I too late? I'm 55, I'm 60. I didn't save enough, I didn't invest early. I wasted time. Is the door closed?" And I always tell them the truth. It's not too late, not even close. Compounding doesn't stop working just because you started late. Compounding doesn't care how old you are. It only cares about two things, time and consistency. And here's what most people forget. People in their 50s and 60s are often in their peak earning years. You might not have the 40-year runway a 20-year-old has, but you've still got a runway, a good one. If you're 55 today and you've got 100,000 saved, and you put that into a simple index fund earning an average 10% a year by age 75, you're looking at around 60, 70,000. And if you're able to add 500 a month, you crack over a million starting at 55. Not magic, not luck, math. The snowball doesn't care who's rolling it. But here's the catch: you have to stop acting like you're 35. You can't spend recklessly. You can't chase flashy investments. You can't try to catch up fast, because that's how people lose everything. Now let me tell you something I've watched for decades, something that destroys financial futures more reliably than recessions, bear markets, inflation, politics, or bad luck. It's the mistakes people make when they hit their 50s and 60s. And I've seen these patterns over and over and over. Different people, different backgrounds, different incomes, same mistakes. And the sad part is, they're preventable. If you're in your 50s or 60s right now, and you want these next 20 or 30 years to be strong, stable, and meaningful, I want you to hear this with complete honesty. No sugarcoating, no comforting lies. Just the truth the way I've learned it, often the hard way, and always from watching real lives play out in real time. Mistake phase 1, spending like you're still 35. When you're in your 30s, mistakes are inexpensive. You buy a car you shouldn't, you take a vacation you can't afford, you say yes to expenses that make zero financial sense, and you've still got decades to recover. The runway is long, the engine is strong, you can make up for almost anything with enough time. But when you're in your 50s or 60s, that luxury evaporates. I watch people in their midlife years who are making good money, sometimes the most money they've ever made, act as if the income will never slow down, and they upgrade everything: the house, the car, the vacations, the toys. The lifestyle inflation eats them alive. I've seen people earning $300,000 a year living paycheck to paycheck, not because they're unlucky, because they spend like they're still 35 with infinite time. Here's the truth: every unnecessary dollar you spend in your 50s and 60s is a dollar that can't compound for your future. People always ask me, David, why don't you drive something flashier? Why not a Lamborghini or a Rolls Royce? You can afford it. Sure, I can, but I don't need it. I drive what gets me from point A to point B. I don't burn money just to look wealthier than I already am. That's not frugality, that's clarity. You don't need most of the things you think you need. And at this age, you must be intentional. You must be disciplined. You must know the difference between comfort and waste. Mistake fake 2, panicking and swinging for home runs. This one ruins more retirements than anything else. People hit 50 or 55, look at their savings, panic, and suddenly try to make up for lost time by taking insane risks. They start putting money into speculative assets, get rich quick rumors, hot stock tips, crypto pumps, private deals they don't understand, all because someone promised fast returns. Let me be blunt: when you panic, you get stupid, and stupid gets expensive. I've been investing for over 40 years. I've made billions managing volatility, crisis, panics, and fear. And I will tell you this with absolute certainty: the people who get rich are not the people taking giant swings. They are the people hitting base hits over and over, year after year. Consistency builds wealth. Desperation destroys it. If you are 55 or 60 and you are trying to double your money, in 12 months you are not investing, you are gambling. And gambling at this age is financial suicide, because you don't have the runway to recover from a major loss. Do you know the worst place I see people lose money? Not in bear markets, not in recessions, not in crashes. They lose money in the years they panic and try to get clever. Here's the truth: boring gets you wealthy. Predictable keeps you wealthy. Volatility destroys you when you're unprepared. Mistake phase 3, ignoring their real expenses. Most people have no idea what they actually spend. They have a feeling, not a number. They have vague guesses, not clarity. And you cannot build a future on guesses. If I ask someone, how much do you spend a month? They'll say something like, oh, maybe 3,000, oh, maybe 4,000 or I. Then they write it down and discover the real number is 6,500. Subscriptions they forgot about, insurance premiums they don't track, inflated grocery bills, car expenses, home repairs, the little leaks that sink big ships. If you want peace in your 50s and 60s, you must know where your money is going, not vaguely, not approximately, but exactly. Because when you understand your expenses, you understand your life. Mistake phase 4, keeping high interest debt into their 50s and 60s. This one baffles me every time. I'll sit with someone who has a $40,000 salary and $12,000 in credit card debt, and they're investing $300 a month into some mutual fund. I ask them, why are you trying to invest while you're bleeding money at 20% interest? And they say, well, I just want to build something for retirement. Listen carefully. You cannot out-invest high-interest debt, ever. It is mathematically impossible. High-interest debt is compounding just like an investment. Only this time, the compounding is happening against you. Think of it like this. You're trying to run uphill while someone adds 20 pounds to your backpack every step. You must eliminate that debt first. Not for comfort, not for peace of mind, but because it is the fastest, simplest, most guaranteed return you will ever get. Paying off a 17% loan is like earning a 17% return, risk-free. And there is no world, no market, no strategy where a normal investor gets 17% guaranteed. Mistake feint 5, treating retirement accounts like an afterthought. People in their 50s often underestimate the power of retirement accounts, especially the catch-up contributions. If you're 50 or older, the government literally lets you contribute more than younger people. This is one of the few financial advantages age gives you. A 401k with max contributions, an IRA or Roth IRA, catch-up 401k. These are tax-advantaged machines, and yet people ignore them. They put in the minimum, or they skip contributions for a few months that turn into years, or they think it won't make much difference. It will. It absolutely will, because tax-free growth is the closest thing to free money you'll ever get. And at this age, you want every advantage possible. Mistake feint 6, believing they don't need a plan. This one is the quiet killer. People think planning is for younger folks. They believe that because retirement is close, planning somehow doesn't matter. Wrong. Your 50s and 60s are the most important planning years of your entire life. You need a debt elimination plan, a savings and contribution plan, an investment allocation plan, a healthcare plan, a housing and downsizing plan, a legacy plan, a time plan. Yes, time must be planned too. Without a plan, your life becomes reactive. With one, your life becomes intentional. And intentional living is the only way to create peace in your later years. Mistake feint 7, ignoring the emotional side of money. Most financial mistakes aren't about money. They're about fear, about ego, about shame, about regret, about trying to impress people who don't care, about trying to hide the fact that time is moving faster than you expected. Your 50s and 60s demand emotional maturity. Financial decisions made from insecurity will ruin you. Financial decisions made from clarity will save you. Let me tell you something harsh, something that very few people will ever say to your face, because everyone today is too scared to offend you. Your biggest financial risk isn't the market, it's you. Not inflation, not recessions, not interest rates, not what Jerome Powell said on Wednesday, you. People love to blame the economy for their failures because the economy can't talk back. But the moment you grow up financially is the moment you realize the enemy you've been fighting all these years lives in your mirror. And this is exactly what David Tepper understood before he became a billionaire. Before he became one of the greatest hedge fund managers alive. Before he built an empire. He learned something most people never learn their entire lives. Markets punish arrogance, but life punishes denial. And denial is the default mode for most people today. They deny how impulsive they are. They deny how emotional they are. They deny how easily their decisions collapse under pressure. And as long as that denial stays, wealth stays out of reach. T. Bartel to human and humans don't want money. They want dopamine. And they'll trade the chance to be wealthy for the chance to be stimulated every single time. This is why most people never escape the loop. Where they make money, gay, they spend money, A, they regret it, gay, repeat. They invest, gay, they panic, B, they sell, they repeat. Or they get an opportunity, gay, they hesitate, they lose, gay, they repeat. They keep circling the same drain, thinking the drain is the problem. But the drain isn't the problem. The pattern is your pattern. And here's the truth very few people want to swallow. You don't rise to your goals. You fall to your habits. When Tepper started, he didn't have massive advantages. He didn't have generational wealth. He didn't have the perfect timing or perfect market environment. What did he have was the discipline to confront the parts of himself that were sabotaging him. Most people never do this. Teichian Visabil tax YO PAY, there's a tax that destroys more wealth than inflation, market crashes, or interest rates combined. It's called the emotional tax. It's the money you lose because you sell too early, buy too late, hold too long, spend because you're bored to take risks, because you're scared to eat, procrastinate, because you're overwhelmed with the freeze, you're overwhelmed, you're uncertain. The emotional tax drains billions of dollars out of ordinary people's pockets every year. And it's 100% self-inflicted. Most people don't need better investments. They need better emotional management. And the market knows this. The market feeds on the emotional tax the same way casinos feed on impatience. If you've ever held a stock, watched it go up, didn't sell, watched it go down, panic it, sold it, and then watched it go up again, congratulations, you've paid the tax. And you'll keep paying until you change the person making the decisions. THPSYCHOLOF, THERIH, VS, EVR, YANI, LSE. Here's what rich people understand, that the middle class struggles with wealth is not about income. Wealth is about behavior. A person making 40K per year with strong behavior will be a person making 1K with weak behavior every time. Why? Because one leaks money, the other retains it. One chases excitement, the other chases discipline. One wants to look rich, the other wants to stay rich. This is why rich people seem calm when everyone else panics. It's not that they're smarter, it's that they spent years training themselves not to emotionally self-destruct. Most people never train that muscle, but it's the most profitable muscle you can develop. Rich people don't avoid bad decisions because they're superhuman. They avoid bad decisions because they build systems that prevent those decisions from happening. They automate savings, they automate investing, they simplify their spending. They avoid environments that trigger impulsiveness. They make rules, and then they follow them. But the average person lives in a hurricane of reactive behavior. They wake up reactive, they spend reactive, they invest reactive, they plan reactive, they live reactive, and reactive behavior produces one outcome: financial fragility. This is why so many people feel like they're stuck. Their life isn't designed, it's improvised, and improvisation is the fastest path to failure. Because when you don't control your system, the system controls you. THERELRISOLU are not a guarble ing. Let me say something very directly. You are not overwhelmed because life is hard. You're overwhelmed because you have no structure. And without structure, even simple things feel impossible. Want to save money? You need a system. Want to invest consistently? You need a system. Want to build skills? You need a system. Want to get out of debt? You need a system. People who rely on motivation fail. People who rely on systems win. Why? Because systems don't get tired. Systems don't get emotional. Systems don't panic. Systems work even when you don't feel like working. And that's the secret nobody wants to hear. Your life improves when your systems improve. Your money grows when your habits grow. Your wealth expands when your identity expands. Most people are not failing financially. They are outdated. They're running 2026 problems with 2010 habits, and it doesn't work. There comes a day when every financially successful person experiences the same moment. The moment they stop saying, why is life so hard? And start saying, why am I making life harder than it needs to be? That's the day everything changes. Not because the world changed, but because while you changed, that's the day you stop fighting the market and start fighting your impulses. The day you stop fighting the economy and start fighting your excuses. The day you stop fighting circumstances and start fighting your comfort. David Tepper became a billionaire not because he had perfect conditions, but because he built perfect behavior. Behavior that made him unstoppable. Behavior that allowed him to thrive when others collapsed. Behavior that protected him from himself. If you want wealth, you have to learn what he learned. You can't control the market, but you can control the person placing the trade. You can't control the economy, but you can control the small daily behaviors that compound into wealth. You can't control uncertainty, but you can control your reaction to uncertainty. And when you master yo-yo, everything else becomes predictable. THEFANLTRUHOFTCG, you are not waiting on money. Money is waiting on you. Waiting for your discipline to catch up. Waiting for your habits to stabilize. Waiting for your emotions to mature. Waiting for your excuses to die. Waiting for your identity to grow into someone capable of holding wealth. Wealth comes when you stop sabotaging the person who wants it. The real work is internal. And once you fix that, the external world bends in your favor. There is a law in finance that almost no one talks about, yet it silently determines the fate of every person's bank account. Not compound interest, not diversification, not risk management. I'm talking about financial gravity. The same way physical gravity pulls objects down, financial gravity pulls people back to the level of discipline they actually live at, not the level of wealth they dream about. You can rise temporarily. You can get lucky. You can have a good year. You can catch a trend. You can stumble into an opportunity. But if your habits are weak, if your discipline is fragile, if your emotions are reactive, gravity always wins, and it brings you right back down This is why 78% of people who receive sudden money, raises, inheritances, bonuses, crypto pumps, trading wins, lose it within 2 years. They never upgraded their internal gravity. They tried to hold wealth with the same habits that once created struggle. And struggle always returns. Tia par, PRINC, coin, or all, TA, do, and study. There's a reason billionaires like David Tepper never fall back to zero. They don't rely on motivation. They don't rely on hype. They don't rely on luck. They rely on rules. And Tepper has one rule that most people ignore. If you don't control the downside will control you. And this is where most people fail. They live with no buffers, no systems, no margin of safety, no discipline. Financial gravity doesn't have to work hard to pull them down. They're already standing at the edge. And the reason they keep falling is simple. They build a life where own a bad month can destroy everything. That is fragility. And fragility is the enemy of freedom. Most people don't actually live 20 different financial years. They live one financial year, repeated 20 times. Why? Because they never fix the underlying structure. They earn a little more, but they spend a little more. They save for a month, then stop for 2. They invest for a while, then panic and sell. They start building skills, then quit when it gets uncomfortable. They don't notice it, but they are living inside a loop, a behavioral time machine that keeps their life replaying the same script. Tepper's genius wasn't in predicting markets. It was in escaping loops. He understood that wealth isn't built by knowing what to do once. It's built by doing the right thing 1,000 times without breaking the chain. The mustang gyros piesagoe chung u star y n ing. When you're losing, life is actually simple. You know you're in trouble. You can feel the pressure. Your mistakes are obvious. The real threat begins when you start winning. Because success hides bad habits better than failure ever could. When things start going well, while you loosen discipline, you take on more risks, you ignore warning signs, you increase lifestyle spending, you get overconfident, you underestimate danger, and slowly, without even noticing, you drift right back into the gravity zone. People don't go broke because they are reckless when things are bad. They go broke because they get careless when things are good. Tepper avoided this trap because he understood something most people don't. Wealth doesn't collapse from one big mistake. It collapses from 1,000 small ones. Tiny leaks, tiny impulses, tiny moments of emotional laziness. That's how financial gravity pulls you back down. People think success must be complicated. They assume billionaires must be doing something extreme or exotic. But the truth is humiliatingly simple. The habits that build wealth are extremely boring. Budgeting is boring. Tracking expenses is boring. Investing consistently is boring. Delaying gratification is boring. Ignoring hype is boring. Saying no is boring. But do you know what else is boring? Being financially secure. Your bills are paid. Your stress is minimal. Your life is margin. You don't panic when things go wrong. You don't chase trends for survival. You don't rely on luck to escape disaster. Wealth is quiet. And it's built by quiet decisions. People want excitement. But excitement is expensive. Peace is free. And peace compounds. There are 3 identities people adopt that guarantee financial gravity will crush them. 1. The survivor identity. This person only acts when things are on fire. They don't save when they should, only when they're desperate. They don't prepare. They react. They live forever in emergencies. Survival mode destroys wealth. 2. The dreamer identity. This person plans big but never executes small. They want to be rich, but avoid the daily behaviors required. They chase shortcuts. They live in someday, but someday never comes. 3. The performer identity. This is dangerous. They want to locate successful more than be successful. They buy for status. They upgrade to impress. They spend to signal. Their life becomes a performance they can no longer afford. And gravity pulls them back to the level they can sustain, not the level they pretend to live. Tepper avoided these identities because his focus wasn't who he wanted to appear as. It was who he needed to become. There's a point in every wealthy person's life when they make a brutal realization. I can't keep living at this level and expect to reach the next one. It's the moment when you stop blaming circumstances, you stop protecting your weaknesses, you stop negotiating with disciplined lie, you stop seeking motivation, you stop running from discomfort, and instead you start engineering your life. This is where gravity reverses, because once your systems rise, your life rises. Once your habits strengthen, your wealth strengthens. Once your identity upgrades, your results follow. People think the rich have better opportunities. But the truth is, they simply have behaviors that create opportunities. Opportunity is attracted to structure. Luck is attracted to discipline. Money is attracted to systems. And the moment you align yourself with that reality, your financial gravity changes direction, upward. Th finalwardi oaftache segimenti. If you don't intentionally design the person you're becoming, life will recycle the person you've always been. Financial gravity is real, but it's not unbeatable. You can defy it. You can rise above it. You can break the loop, but only if you build the habits, systems, and identity that wealth needs to survive. Without them, money leaves. With them, money multiplies. In the next segment, we go deeper. How your environment, friends, content, and daily inputs silently shape your financial destiny. And how Tepper weaponized his environment to build unstoppable momentum. You can have discipline. You can have ambition. You can have intelligence. You can have the right goals, the right habits, even the right intentions. But if your environment is wrong, it will eventually crush everything you're trying to build. People dramatically underestimate this. They think they can grow in toxic surroundings. They think they can transform while living inside the same patterns. They think they can develop billionaire level habits while swimming in distractions, noise, and low-quality influences. But the truth is harsh. Environment beats willpower. Environment beats motivation. Environment beats talent. And David Tepper understood this before most people even realize it's a factor. He engineered an environment that forced him to be excellent. Most people let their environment choose them. Tepper chose his environment. And that one choice changed everything. Let's start with the most brutal truth about wealth building. You become the financial average of the people you spend the most time with. Not because you copy them, but because environment shifts your standards. If your friends normalize debt, you will justify debt. If your family normalizes overspending, you will rationalize overspending. If your circle normalizes complaining, you will defend complaining. If your peers chase dopamine, you will chase dopamine. And this isn't theory, it's human psychology. We mimic the energy, habits, and expectations around us. You don't rise to your goals, you adapt to your surroundings. This is why Tepper avoided people who were emotionally chaotic, financially erratic, or mentally weak. He didn't judge them, he simply refused to let them dictate his standards. Because people don't just influence what you do, they influence what you consider normal, and your normal determines your destiny. THC literal of Conti, Manafidio, your Miman Bikomas Bahelio Bikoma, your mind is like soil, and everything you consume is planting seeds, belief seeds, behavior seeds, identity seeds. Most people are filling their mind with a drama, the negativity, a fear, the outrage, a short form noise, a financial misinformation, emotionally charged distractions. Then they wonder why they feel anxious, unfocused, and financially paralyzed. But someone like Tepper engineered his inputs with precision. He didn't feed his mind content that weakened him. He consumed content that sharpened his edge, books, data, market history, economic cycles, frameworks, mental models, not noise, not hype, not emotional garbage, because what you feed your mind becomes your internal operating system. And most people are running their financial life on corrupted software. TGPHOISXL, NVR, MMTZ, Amelio, LIVDTAR, IMSHER, LIU. Taika, you cannot build a powerful life in a chaotic room. You cannot build clarity in clutter. You cannot build consistency in disorder. Your physical environment is a mirror of your internal environment. If your room is messy, your mind is messy. If your workspace is chaotic, your thoughts are chaotic. If your surroundings are noisy, your decisions are noisy, and this drains your mental bandwidth. People think they're tired because life is stressful. But more often, they're tired because their environment is constantly pulling on their attention. Tepper didn't build a perfect environment because he was a billionaire. He became a billionaire because he built a disciplined environment long before the money came. THENRGYOLMOISTHFUTURIOSAD. Here's something almost nobody talks about. Every environment carries an energy, and that energy infects you. If your environment is filled with complaining, a victim mentality, a insecurity, a gossip, lay K, financial stress or randomness, lay distraction, then no matter how disciplined you think you are, that energy will seep in. Energy is contagious. Entropy is contagious. Weakness is contagious. And most people unconsciously adopt the emotional tone of the people and environment around them. You don't even realize it's happening. It's slow. It's subtle. It's corrosive. It destroys your capacity before it destroys your bank account. Environmental trappes tisha must pieli. There are 4 traps that quietly drain people's financial potential. 1. The comfort trap. A comfortable environment kills ambition. It convinces you that good enough is enough, but comfort is the enemy of growth. 2. The distraction trap. An environment filled with screens, noise, notifications, and low-quality entertainment destroys focus. Without focus, wealth is impossible. 3. The chaos trap. Living in disorder creates mental fog. Mental fog creates poor decisions. Poor decisions create instability. 4. The social pressure trap. Surrounding yourself with people who normalize mediocrity forces you to conform downward. These traps don't break you in a dramatic way. They break you slowly, quietly, until one day you wake up and wonder, why am I stuck? Because your environment grew stronger than your potential. It wasn't just intelligence. It wasn't just hard work. It wasn't even his legendary ability to stay calm in chaos. It was this: he built an environment that made the right behavior automatic and the wrong behavior difficult. He created a world where a focus was easy, a discipline was natural, distractions were minimized, information flow was clean, a mental clarity was constant, emotional noise was reduced, chaos had no place to grow. Most people do the opposite. They build environments that reward distraction, they encourage impulsiveness, normalize poor decisions, weaken discipline, we amplify noise to drain energy, inflate stress, then wonder why wealth feels impossible. Wealth isn't impossible. Your current environment is. AOTO, AGNER, or MANTFOLD. Here's the truth: your environment should pull you upward, not drag you downward. That means spend time with people who make discipline normal, remove people who thrive on negativity, limit financial noise and hype, fill your room with clarity, not clutter, build a workspace that makes focus automatic. Treat your mind like a high-performance machine. Feed it only quality material. Protect your attention like your life depends on it. Because this isn't optional. This is the foundation. Your habits matter, but the environment they operate in matters more. You cannot plant millionaire seeds in poverty soil. You cannot grow a wealthy mindset in a chaotic environment. You cannot build a disciplined life in a culture of distraction. You cannot rise while your environment pulls you down. If you want to transform your financial reality, transform the world you live in. Because the person you become tomorrow is shaped by the environment you tolerate today.